The Long Walk has just been released, and after what feels like an extremely heavy marketing campaign, the adaptation of the Stephen King story has finally hit our screens. Set in a post-war New Age America where the Major was enforcing rules and preventing the previous ways of life from seeing the light of day, there was a laziness epidemic in America, and the Long Walk was said to motivate citizens to go out and be productive. But with all but one dead and the sole survivor getting a prize which was riches beyond belief, the country was set to gain from it, and the sole winner would too. So with that, let's take a look at the deeper themes of the movie, break down the ending, and I'll also share if it's worth a watch. I've also got a little bit of a rant at the end of the video about my recent cinema experience during the viewing, so a bit of an extra if you stay until the end, and I'll be intrigued to see if you agree. So let's get into it. Here is a review of The Long Walk and the ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. When it came to the ending of this movie, we saw that it was only the two main characters left, Pete and Ray, who were the last survivors. The likes of Barkovich was killed off, Art was, and Olsen was too, leaving only the two people that had been there for each other the most. We found out during the movie that the reason Ray signed up for the Long Walk was so that once he won it, and he believed that he would, he planned on killing the Major. He wanted to do this because the Major executed his father in the street in front of him because he was teaching him ways of old America before the war-torn nature took it over. However, as the both of them were approaching the end, Ray realized that he regretted joining this walk, being caught up on revenge and abandoning his mother like his father did by not letting go of the past. That's exactly what Ray did by joining the walk. He wasn't standing by his mother in the present and was focused on living in the past instead. Right at the end, Pete stopped in the middle of the street and got onto his warning levels. He stopped and was willing to lose because he wanted Ray to be there for his mother, not taking him away from her and for him to have the change in life that he'd spoken about. However, Ray didn't let that happen. He picked him up and continued to walk with him until he decided to stop walking and the shots were fired at him instead. He was on his third warning by that point because he was helping Pete, so it was instant. Ray did this because he was no longer afraid of death. Earlier on in the movie, he spoke of how it used to be the thing that he was the most afraid of in life, but how now he'd come to accept what it was. Most likely because he'd seen his father die in front of him and been exposed to it so much whilst on the walk. He took solace in the fact that very few get to decide where they got to be and who they could be with in their final moments, and whilst on this walk he found a brother, which was Pete, and he wanted to not only die with him, but he wanted to die for him, enabling Pete to be able to metaphorically and literally stop walking, because as Pete said, he'd been walking his entire life. That's why Pete wasn't too fussed about what happened to him. He had everything to gain by being on this walk and nothing to lose. That's why when he won the prize in the end, which was the unimaginable riches and the wish, he chose for his wish to be the weapon so that he could kill the Major. By Pete doing that, it meant that he relinquished his riches and the life that he could have had ahead of him that was without worry. It was no longer an option. He got revenge on the Major for Ray, for his brother. He always wanted a brother growing up, and on this long walk he got one in Ray, so that was greater than any prize that he could have got by being the sole winner. With the final shot being Pete looking off into the distance and seeing the road ahead, he started walking towards it, showing that, like before he signed up to the Long Walk, and like when he was on it, his life was now going to continue being that walk. When it came to the rest of the characters, what their behaviours and traits showed us was the mental resilience that they had and how over time, after being faced with the prospect of their own death, it led them to react in different ways. The likes of Olsen broke completely, and Barkovich also did too, not only fearing his own death, but by being uncertain of how to live in a world knowing that he was responsible for somebody else's. As much as this was a physical endurance test and the characters were prepared for that, it was a mental one too. Days of sleep deprivation, only being 3 chances away from death, and also the prospect of knowing that all of the friends that you were going to make along the way were going to end up dead too. It was something that challenged them all in different ways, leading us to see multiple human responses. My review of the movie. Overall, I thought this movie was alright, but I was a little bit let down by it. I didn't quite know what to truly expect before going into it, but by the end, it just kind of felt like it lacked any real purpose or meaning when it came to the ending. I understood that Ray and Pete became brothers at the end, and that the relationship that they forged along the way and the statement that he made, hoping to change the Long Walk moving forward, was far greater than any of the Riches. But I feel like I never truly got a gut-punching moment with this film. Not at any point, so I thought that was a shame. The strongest thing about this movie was the brotherly bond that both Ray and Pete formed, and the performances from the two leads. The secular nature of the group wanting to help each other, to then not wanting to help, and to then being there for one another in the end, was a nice direction for the movie to go in, and it showed the progression of their mindset. One thing that this movie didn't hold back on with was the gore. We saw some truly gruesome moments. Whether it be the players getting eliminated, or them having to go to the bathroom whilst they were walking. That guy that had the bad stomach was one of the grossest things that I've seen in a movie for a long time. When it came to the characters, outside of the main two, I'd say I found it quite difficult to forge a relationship with them. They just felt like caricatures of the stereotypical tropes that one would expect in this type of movie. You had the bad guy turned good, the two heroes, the lovable one, and the one that, well, I don't even know with him. I do understand why they had Pete kill the Major and Ray sacrifice himself, but I maybe would have liked Pete to have accepted the money, which would have shown that he didn't learn a lesson, or for Ray to have won, betrayed Pete, accepted the prize, and then realised that he made the wrong decision, ultimately feeling the weight of responsibility for Pete's death, just like how Barkovich did. In general, I thought the film was an alright watch. I don't think it was anything special, and I don't think it'll be remembered. It'll be one that sits in the top 10 for a while when it inevitably hits Netflix, because it's pretty straightforward to watch, and in general, not that much happens. It's just a walk where one by one people get picked off, so I wouldn't necessarily rush out for it, but that's just my opinion. My general rant about the cinema experience. Now, I don't like moaning or feeling like an old fogey, but wow, I think this was probably the worst cinema experience that I've had in such a long time. In my mind, I'm thinking it's a weekday, it's midday, people that are watching this movie have chosen to go to the cinema because they're obviously interested in the film. It was the first showing. I imagine you'd think that as well, right? Well, the amount of phones that kept lighting up with people checking the time, the notifications, and even replying to messages was more than I've ever seen. I found the light distracting, and in an environment that's supposed to be dark due to the immersive nature of what we're watching, it was totally ruined for this movie. The etiquette was so bad from so many people, and it just made me think how the cinema is a place that's just become quite disrespected. Honestly, I don't get why people pay for the ticket if they're not going to watch the movie and sit on their phones instead. I don't know whether it's attention span, boredom of the movie, or what, but if you're one of those people that do that, just think of the people around you who are being disrupted by the light. It might seem insignificant, but to people who actually want to watch the film and feel immersed within it, it's arguably one of the most disruptive things that you can do. I love the cinema, and cinemas are struggling, so I always try to go. But things like that and a lack of respect by people that don't respect it taint the experience, so I just wanted to get that off my chest because I really noticed it with this film. So, there you have it, a review of The Long Walk and the ending explained. If you want to see more movies from this year being broken down, then check the playlist below. What did you think of this movie? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.